Hi guys, welcome back to Butterfly Effect Podcast. We have Life is Strange Double Exposure around the corner, and today's video is all about Max's new power. So in the first game, Max Caulfield could rewind time, but in this new game, she can supposedly shift through two different timelines. So very different. They've scrapped her old power, they've given her a new one. We've commented before extensively on what we think of that, but Jack, before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of this new power, I just want to ask you point blank, are you going to miss the old one of rewinding time at all?
No, not really. Because what I have seen of that trailer that we're going to talk about, it sounds like it's going to be fairly similar anyway. Actually with some new things, because we know in season 1, like, you could rewind time, which obviously could undo certain things, certain actions in that moment. And it was also very useful for puzzles as well. But actually, even looking at this new trailer with like the different dimensions and whatnot, it seems like that you can go into a different dimension to go grab a certain tool anyway, and then go back to the current timeline to give the tool to whoever needs it. So I feel like it's just more of the same thing as what they were doing in season 1, but just a different power, a different way of displaying it. I'd rather that they did something different than just regurgitate the rewind time, because we've already criticised enough that, or commented I should say, that there are just very strong parallels with and harking back to season 1, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it can feel like a cash grab or whatever. But at least this is something a little bit different on the eye for players to experience.
Yeah, big time. I myself, I agree. I think it needs to do something different. It needs to stray from Life is Strange 1 massively, and having a different power is a surefire way to do that, big time. Yeah, like you say, like the 3 bullet points that come out of this new power, lad, are you can solve puzzles, retrieve items, and convince characters to reveal secrets. So that is interesting. Obviously, fairly similar to the other power. You could argue you could do those things with the other power. My concern with this new power, though, is we also played the game Tell Me Why, and I just wonder if it's going to be very similar to that, because in this game you've got shift points. Now in Tell Me Why, you could go up to like an aura and then go through and see those silhouettes. I think it could just be like an enhanced version of that and a bit of a mirror, where we're just getting like straight up another feature that we've already seen before. So I just hope that they find a way to differentiate from that. But is that like a concern you have potentially, or something you think they could tread on the same water with?
I think for me it's really rooted in terms of what the significance of your actions in both timelines. So I think I vaguely remember as well, something from the trailer was saying is that how you behave with someone in one timeline can actually impact that person in the opposite timeline. How far does that branching go? And how far does that impact the plot or the mystery, in terms of trying to solve the murder of Safi? That's what I'm going to be looking for. But as like a general template of something that they've tried to implement, I think it's sort of like, let's wait and see, lad.
Big time. One thing that I wanted to divert your attention to is the fact that Max can equally get confused, as well as yourself, with the fact that there are two timelines, because we are going to have to live in two timelines and track what was said in one and what was said in the other. So we recently played that game, lad, the FMV Shapeshifting Detective review. Now, a brief overview, if you haven't played that game, guys. You basically shapeshift as someone else, and then you question the suspects and they can divulge secrets, divulge information. But then when you shift back as yourself or another character, you have to like remember what you said as who, as to not give away, secrets and stuff. So there's something very similar here. In the trailer, we have an example of Max going up to this blonde girl saying, "Oh, did you speak to Reggie?" And the girl going, "Wait, what?" Because obviously that happened in a different timeline. So my question to you here, lad, is do you quite like that feature that you're going to have to keep track of what you said in which timeline? Do you think that could be something that would be interesting?
I do, yeah. I mean, you know me, I like sort of going detective in these games, and it's already ticked a big box in the fact that it's going to be a murder mystery. So the fact that, yeah, you're really going to have to pay attention is something I'm fully on board for. again, like as a criticism, you know me, but I'm not like I like these games, but I'm not like the biggest Life is Strange fan. And sometimes I've said in previous videos that sometimes my attention can waver in certain scenes when you're walking around and you feel like it's moving at a slowish pace, But the fact that perhaps you're going to have to pay attention because you don't know what you've got to remember what you've said to X person, in for this instance, I think that that's actually quite a clever way of like keeping players on their toes. So yeah, again, something I'm looking forward to seeing, mate.
Big time. And the other thing they mention as well is that for those who think they might get easily confused with which timeline they're in, they have done certain things to kind of really make sure you can tell which timeline you are in. So firstly, you can change the display. So you can go into the menu and change it. So like the top of the screen could actually tell you which timeline you're in, should you wish for that. Equally as well, though, in the timeline where Sappy's alive, you will get Christmas decorations in. So I gather they're going to go down the storyline where Sappy's like kind of like a residential assistant, like an RA, where she'll go in and she'll like take care of decorations. And in the timeline where she's dead, potentially, well, obviously she's not alive to do that stuff, so it got neglected. So you can kind of tell which timeline you're in by the decor and stuff. Do you think that that's quite a cool way of like doing that? And also, lad, do you reckon you're going to go in the menu and have that little bit of an indicator yourself to find out which timeline you're in?
Potentially, but at the same time, as a player, I don't want to be spoon-fed too much. So I think actually me being properly engaged with the game, trying to stay in touch with what timeline I'm in, that's probably what I'm going to be doing. But you know what? Since we're talking about like both timelines and things, I'll raise a point that I've sort of thought of. So that obviously, in the main timeline, Safi dies, right? And the whole object of the game is that we can open up into a new reality where Safi's still alive, but she's still under the threat of being killed. So I don't know how you want to read that, in that it feels like maybe we've sort of gone back in time in the other timeline, or whether there's this sense of inevitability that someone always wants to try and kill Safi. As a question that I'm going to pose to you, mate, is that do you think that actually perhaps the end choice of this game, or one of the end choices, it's sort of spelled out to us already, in the sense that one timeline, Safi's definitely dead. The other one, there's a potential to keep her alive. You think that perhaps we're going to get a similar ending to like season 1, where it's perhaps choose Chloe or Arcadia Bay, but instead in this one we have a binary choice. Do we choose to stay in the reality where Safi died, or do we just move over to the one where we've managed to keep her alive?
Yeah, it's a very good point, and I think you're spot on. I do think that could be the ending, and I think it would be made even more interesting with the fact that if Chloe Price, as like a lot of Life is Strange fans want to happen, if she does miraculously come back in maybe the other timeline where she's not dead, then maybe the ending could become a bit of like a, do we stick with Safi or do we go back to Chloe kind of choice, So like that could easily be something that happens, like depending on which timelines they do die in. So yeah, no, for sure. Like I think that could be a very tangible story. Whether it's one I like, I'm unsure. I'll have to process that one. How about yourself?
I think it's all to do with the execution, isn't it? And I feel like, for me, there's going to be people out there that don't like Chloe, and all power to you. But I think it's going to require a lot of work of Deck 9 for players to get really invested. If they are bringing Chloe back into this plot by hook or by crook, they really are going to have to get the player to really like this Safi character. So that if there is a choice like that at the end, where you've got to pick between both timelines, one for Chloe, one for Safi, that choice is really meaningful, and it's not easy for players to just go, oh, I'll just run off with Chloe, and just again undo everything that you've done in the game, which again would seem very similar to season 1. So yeah, very, very sort of dependent on the execution, mate. I just hope that they can pull it off.
Yeah, no, so can I. But yeah, no, like, this power will be really interesting, and the ending that the game tells could as well. So, like, they've got a lot on their plate, Deck 9, with how they're going to go about this. We've always been skeptical about how they're going to execute this game, how they can piss off fans, who like picked one certain ending or the other. So yeah, it's going to be a mammoth task for Deck 9, and I'm so intrigued to see how they pull it off. And with less than 2 months away, we're going to soon find out. But guys, please let us know in the comments what you think of Max's new power. Are you going to miss rewinding time? Are you going to embrace shifting timelines? Let us know what you think on that one. And also let us know what you think of Jack's theory about, potentially knowing what the ending's going to be already. But otherwise, Jack, anything else to add?
If you found us for the first time, guys, do check out our channel. Look on the podcast tab where you can find our analysis series for season 1, which, of course, in the build up to double exposure is incredibly relevant. And do keep an eye out as well, because in the future we are going to be playing double exposure, and we're going to be covering all of the other Life is Strange games as well. And there's also a playlist in the playlist tab for Life is Strange season 1 as well, bonus videos. Check it out, and hope you stick around on the channel.
Yeah, and also guys, if you're a fan of Life is Strange Before the Storm, stick around with us and hit that subscribe button, because we will be releasing a Before the Storm analysis series soon, which, is pretty fun. There's lots to cover, there's lots that we're going to talk about, so stick around for that one. But thank you very much for watching the video, guys. We will see you in the next one. Take care for now.
Catch you later.